Have you ever felt like you're stuck in a rut, unable to break free from your own thoughts and habits? Maybe you've tried everything to get ahead, but still feel like you're treading water. It's frustrating, isn't it? But what if I told you that the real key to unlocking your potential doesn't lie in changing your circumstances, but in changing your mindset? You see, the mind is a powerful thing. It's like the steering wheel of your life. No matter how amazing your destination might be, it's your thoughts, your beliefs, and the way you see yourself that dictate whether or not you'll get there. But here's the kicker. So many of us don't even realize we have the power to shift that mindset. We feel like we're at the mercy of our circumstances, waiting for life to change before we do. What if I told you that's not the case? What if, instead of waiting for things to improve, you could shift your mindset today and start seeing the world and your place in it in a whole new way? Let me share a quick story with you about a student of mine, a young woman named Sarah, who came to me a few years ago. Sarah was bright, ambitious, and filled with dreams, but she couldn't seem to get out of her own way. She was constantly overwhelmed by self-doubt, feeling like no matter what she did, she was always falling short. Sound familiar? I know it does for many of us. But here's where things get interesting. Sarah had been in this cycle for years. It wasn't that she wasn't working hard or didn't care, it was that her mindset was holding her back. You see, she was stuck in a fixed mindset, a belief that she was either good enough or not good enough, depending on how things turned out. Every setback was a sign of failure, and every success was a fluke. And that, my friends, was the problem. Her thinking was limiting her potential. So one day, I decided to teach her a simple but powerful technique, the concept of growth mindset, a term coined by Dr. Carol Dweck, a world-renowned psychologist who once said, "The view you adopt for yourself profoundly affects the way you lead your life." We worked on shifting her perspective, reframing challenges as opportunities, and embracing the idea that failure wasn't the end, but a lesson to learn from. It didn't happen overnight, but slowly Sarah began to shift her mindset. She started taking risks, stepping outside her comfort zone, and embracing failure as part of her journey. And you know what happened next? Sarah became one of the top performers in her class, landed her dream job, and started a podcast about self-development, helping others overcome their own mental barriers. This wasn't magic, it was mindset, and it can be just as life-changing for you as it was for Sarah. Now, I want you to think about your own life. Are you stuck in a fixed mindset, believing that the way things are is the way they'll always be? Or are you ready to embrace the power of change by shifting your perspective? Today, we're going to explore how you can do just that. Take control of your mindset and break free from the limits you've placed on yourself. I'm Dr. Theodore Whitmore, and welcome to the Whitmore Way. This channel is all about unlocking your highest potential and guiding you toward personal transformation. And today, we're diving deep into how simple mindset shifts can lead to massive personal growth. So if you're ready to break free from that mental block that's been holding you back, make sure to stick around. Together, we'll unlock the best version of yourself. Let's get started. Have you ever felt like no matter how hard you try, things just don't seem to change? Maybe you've worked late nights, sacrificed weekends, or even stretched yourself thin, but it feels like you're just spinning your wheels. I've been there. We've all been there. And I want to tell you something important. It's not because you're not trying hard enough or you're not good enough. It's because you might be looking at things the wrong way. Let me explain. A few years ago, I was working with a young man named John. He had an incredible work ethic, the kind you could see in everything he did. He would wake up early, grind through his tasks, and rarely take a break. But despite all of that effort, he wasn't moving forward. He felt stuck. Every time something didn't work out, he'd internalize it as a personal failure. He'd tell himself, "I'm just not cut out for this," or "maybe I'm not meant for success." But here's the truth. John wasn't the problem. His mindset was. You see, John was trapped in a fixed mindset, the kind of mindset where you believe your abilities and intelligence are static. If you believe that your talents are limited, Any setback can feel like a confirmation that you're not good enough. And when you're stuck in that kind of thinking, you'll never push yourself to achieve your full potential. Why? Because you believe you've hit a ceiling. But what if you could shift that? What if you could embrace a growth mindset, the belief that your abilities can be developed with hard work, dedication, and perseverance? That's exactly what we did with John. Instead of viewing his challenges as failures, we reframed them as opportunities to learn. We worked on understanding that mistakes are not a reflection of his worth, but a necessary part of the process. That's when everything began to change. John started approaching problems with a different attitude. Instead of avoiding them or running away from failure, he began to tackle them head-on, seeing each obstacle as a chance to grow. He embraced the idea that his capacity for success wasn't fixed. It was something he could build over time. And that shift in mindset didn't just affect his work, it affected his entire life. John became more confident, more resilient, and, most importantly, he started to achieve things he once thought were impossible. Here's where I want to emphasize something crucial. You don't need to be born with a special gift to succeed. You don't need to have everything figured out from the start. What you need, and what we all need, is the willingness to adapt, to learn, and to keep pushing forward. That's the secret to growth. That's the power of a mindset shift. But here's a key insight I want you to keep in mind. Shifting your mindset is not something that happens overnight. It's a gradual process. You don't flip a switch and instantly become someone else. But if you start making small changes, start looking at your setbacks as lessons, and embrace challenges as opportunities, you will notice gradual transformation. It's a journey. And if you're committed to taking that journey, to challenging your own limiting beliefs, to pushing beyond what you thought was possible, that's when you'll begin to see real change. And speaking of change, let me remind you of something that I truly believe. The best way to predict the future is to create it. That's a quote from Abraham Lincoln that stuck with me for years. You don't need to wait for life to change or for things to fall into place. You are the one with the power to create the future you want. And that creation starts with how you think about yourself and your circumstances. As you begin to shift your mindset, remember that growth is a process. It's not about being perfect. It's about progress. Celebrate the small wins along the way and don't let setbacks derail you. Every time you encounter an obstacle, remember, that's just another step on your journey to becoming the best version of yourself. Now that we've talked about the power of shifting your mindset, let's take it a step further and explore how changing the way you think can help you break through mental barriers and unlock the confidence you need to take action. Because, let's face it, confidence is a game changer. When you believe in yourself, when you know deep down that you have what it takes, doors start opening for you. But the catch is, confidence doesn't come from perfection, it comes from progress. Let's rewind a bit and look at my own journey. As many of you know, I've spent over 2 decades studying psychology and personal development, but it wasn't always that way. There was a time early on when I wasn't the confident speaker or leader you see today. In fact, I remember my very first public speaking experience. I was terrified. My hands shook, my voice wavered, and I could hardly look at the audience. I felt like an imposter. What kept me going wasn't perfection. It was the mindset shift that I've shared with so many of my students. That failure was not an end, but a lesson. Every time I stumbled, I learned. Every time I was nervous, I realized that those feelings were normal. And slowly, with each speaking engagement, I began to build my confidence. Over time, I began to embrace the process, and that's when the real transformation happened. This, my friends, is where mental barriers come into play. So many of us have these invisible walls built around our potential. These walls are made up of self-doubt, fear of judgment, or the belief that we're not good enough. These barriers feel real, and they can feel paralyzing. But here's the truth. Those barriers are all in your mind. They don't exist outside of the thoughts you've allowed to control you. Think about it. When was the last time you were held back by fear? Maybe you wanted to start a new project, speak up in a meeting, or ask someone out, but you held yourself back because you were scared. Maybe you thought, what if I fail? What if I'm not ready? What if I'm not capable? Those questions, while completely normal, are the barriers I'm talking about. And they only exist because you've allowed them to. But here's where the good news comes in. You have the power to break those barriers. Every time you push yourself outside your comfort zone, you break down a little piece of that wall. It's like chiseling away at the stone of doubt, one small action at a time. Let me share another quick story with you. I worked with a client a while ago named Tom, a mid-level manager who had been passed over for promotions multiple times. He was frustrated because he knew he was capable, but he didn't know how to demonstrate that capability. His confidence was at an all-time low, but after our sessions, we discovered that the root of his lack of confidence wasn't his skill set or work ethic. It was his belief that he wasn't enough to be promoted, that the people around him were simply better. He had created a mental barrier that was keeping him from fully embracing his potential. So, we focused on small wins, taking the initiative on a project, offering ideas in meetings, and starting to actively seek feedback from his peers. Slowly, Tom began to see himself in a new light. He realized that the barriers he'd created weren't real, and with each success, no matter how small, his confidence grew. And guess what? Just a few months later, Tom landed the promotion he had been waiting for. It wasn't magic. It was mindset. So how can you start breaking your own mental barriers? It begins with recognizing that these barriers are not facts. They're just fears, doubts, and old stories you've been telling yourself. The more you challenge those beliefs, the more you begin to see that they don't hold the power you thought they did. A great way to start is by setting small, achievable goals that push you outside your comfort zone. These goals don't have to be huge. They can be as simple as starting a conversation with someone you've been avoiding, signing up for a class that intimidates you, or making that first move towards a bigger dream. Every time you accomplish a small goal, you gain confidence, and with each win, that wall of doubt starts to crumble. Confidence grows when you act, not when you wait for the perfect moment. And here's a reminder for you. The best time to start is now. If you keep waiting for the right conditions, the perfect opportunity, or the perfect version of yourself, you'll be waiting forever. Progress comes when you take action, even in the face of fear. And don't forget, your mindset is key in this process. The more you shift your thinking from I can't to I can, the more natural it becomes to take action. The more you focus on growth, learning, and pushing your boundaries, the more your confidence will skyrocket. So, what's one small thing you can do today that will challenge a mental barrier? Maybe it's something that's been on your mind for weeks, months, or even years. That's your next step. And with each step, you'll find that you're not just breaking barriers, you're building the confidence to move mountains. All right, so we've talked about the power of shifting your mindset, how it can break down mental barriers and boost your confidence. But here's the big question. How do you keep this momentum going? How do you continue building on your progress day after day so that this transformation isn't just a one-time thing, but something that lasts for the long haul? The truth is, this process of growth is not a sprint, it's a marathon. And to make real, lasting change, you have to embrace consistency. It's easy to get excited about a new mindset, to feel motivated for a few days or even weeks, but real transformation comes from small, daily actions that add up over time. When I first started my journey as a professor and personal development coach, I had all these grand ideas and big dreams, but it wasn't the big moments that brought me success. It was the everyday choices I made that compounded over time. It was the hours spent reading, researching, working with clients, and refining my understanding of human behavior. It was the small adjustments in my mindset every time I faced a challenge. It was the quiet, consistent work that led to breakthroughs. This is the key. Success is not a result of sudden bursts of energy, but the accumulation of consistent effort. And just like anything else, your mindset needs to be nurtured regularly. It's not enough to make a decision to shift your perspective once. You have to choose to shift your mindset over and over again, every single day. But I know, life gets busy. Things don't always go according to plan. You face obstacles, distractions, and moments where your old mindset rears its ugly head. It happens to everyone. There will be days when you wake up and feel like you've taken 2 steps back instead of forward. But here's the secret. That's okay. Progress is not linear. It's messy, it's uneven, and that's part of the process. As long as you keep going, even on the tough days, you're still moving forward. I'll tell you a story about one of my most successful clients, a man named Michael, who came to me years ago for coaching. Michael was an entrepreneur, but despite all his efforts, his business just wasn't growing the way he wanted. He was frustrated and on the verge of giving up. When he came to me, he was overwhelmed by self-doubt. He kept thinking, maybe I'm just not cut out for this. Maybe I should just quit and go back to a 9 to 5. But what we found was that Michael's business wasn't the problem. The real challenge was his mindset. We started by identifying the limiting beliefs he held about himself. Beliefs like, I'm not a natural leader, or I'm not good with money, or success is for other people, not for me. Once we identified those beliefs, we worked on shifting them. Slowly but surely, Michael began to see his business and himself in a new light. He started believing that growth was possible, not because he was perfect, but because he was willing to keep trying, learning, and evolving. But here's where the magic happened. It wasn't a single breakthrough that turned things around for Michael. It was his consistency. He showed up every day, ready to learn, ready to adapt, ready to fail and get back up. He kept pushing even when the results weren't immediate, and over time, his business flourished. Michael didn't just change his business, he changed his life. He embraced the process of growth, not the result. And that mindset shift, that commitment to long-term growth, is what made all the difference. This is something I want you to remember as you go forward. Transformation is about persistence, not perfection. It's about showing up, even on days when you don't feel like it. It's about deciding to shift your mindset again and again, especially when things get tough. It's about making a commitment to yourself that you will continue to grow no matter what. And here's the thing. The moment you start embracing that mindset, the moment you realize that progress is the goal, not perfection, you'll start noticing a shift in everything around you. You'll stop feeling frustrated by setbacks and start seeing them as opportunities for growth. You'll stop doubting yourself and start trusting the process. And in time, you'll reach places you never thought possible. I want you to picture your future self for a moment, the person you want to become. Imagine the confidence you'll have, the mental clarity, the resilience in the face of challenges, and the ability to embrace your potential fully. That future self is within reach, but it requires consistency. It requires patience, and it requires a mindset that is always open to learning. So, what's the next step for you? What action can you take today that will bring you closer to that future version of yourself? Maybe it's something small, like setting aside 10 minutes for reflection, journaling, or simply practicing gratitude. Maybe it's taking a bold step forward in your career, relationships, or health. Whatever it is, commit to it. And commit to showing up, not just today, but every day, knowing that each action brings you closer to your goal. Before we wrap up, I want to remind you of something important. You have the power to shape your life. Every decision you make, every thought you allow to take root, every action you take, these things add up. You're creating the future you want, one moment at a time. So, don't wait for some magical moment to change your life. Start now, right where you are. If you found this video helpful, if it inspired you to start shifting your mindset and breaking through your own mental barriers, I would love to hear from you. Like, comment, and subscribe so we can continue this journey together. Your engagement helps the channel grow, and I'm here to provide you with more tools, advice, and strategies to unlock your highest potential. Together, we're creating lasting change, and I'm honored to be a part of your transformation. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, the best version of yourself is just one mindset shift away. Keep going, and I'll see you in the next video.